The great chamber of the Galaxy Council stretched wide like the mouth of some ancient beast. Its curved walls covered in symbols from 1,000 conquered worlds. And at its center stood 9 towering seats where the most powerful species in known space made their decisions. Council of Wrath of the Dominion rose from his seat. His forearms spread wide as holographic images flickered to life above the assembly. "We have tolerated the humans long enough," he declared, his voice echoing through translation devices worn by every delegate present. The images showed Earth, a small blue world spinning alone at the edge of an unremarkable spiral arm. And beside it scrolled data that made several counselors shift uncomfortably in their seats. They refused to join the collective. Wrath continued. They trade independently with species we have marked for integration, and worst of all, they have been sheltering refugees from our lawful expansion. Elder Morith of the Velshi, an ancient being whose silver skin reflected the chamber lights, raised one thin hand. "Perhaps we should consider why these refugees flee to them," Morris suggested quietly. "Perhaps we should ask what the humans offer that we do not." Wrath's 4 eyes narrowed with contempt. "They offer chaos and disorder. Nothing more. And it is time we brought them into line, as we have done with every other species that defied our unity." The vote came swiftly, as such votes always did when Wrath pushed for military action. 7 council members raised their approval, their various appendages glowing with the light of agreement, while only Morith and 1 other voted against. "Then it is decided," spoke High Arbiter Koss, the insectoid leader whose word carried the weight of law. "Fleet Commander Torvax will lead our armada to Earth, and the humans will learn what every species eventually learns. That resistance to the Council is futile." Far from the Grand Chamber, in a cramped translator booth on Station Meridian, a young woman named Una Park pressed her headphones tighter against her ears and felt her blood turn to ice. She had worked at the Human Embassy for 3 years, translating minor trade disputes and cultural exchanges, never expecting to intercept anything more important than arguments about shipping routes, but the transmission crackling through her equipment was not about shipping routes. It spoke of 9,700 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, and it spoke of Earth's destruction with the casual certainty of someone ordering lunch. Una's hands trembled as she began recording, her mind racing through protocols she had memorized but never thought she would need. The invasion fleet would launch in 40 hours, and Earth lay 31 hours away at maximum hyperspace velocity. She had less than 9 hours to warn her home. "Ambassador Chun," she called into her communicator, abandoning all pretense of calm. "We have a priority 1 situation. I mean the actual priority one, not the drill." The next 8 hours became a blur of encrypted transmissions, desperate verification attempts, and arguments with officials who could not believe what they were hearing. How could the Council attack Earth without warning, without negotiation, without even the pretense of legal justification? But Una had read the histories that Earth kept hidden from most of its citizens, and she knew the answer perfectly well. The Council did not negotiate with species it considered inferior, it simply absorbed them, erased their cultures, and turned their populations into labor forces for the greater collective good. 12 species had already vanished this way, their names remembered only in classified human archives, and Earth had watched each absorption with growing horror and determination when her warning finally reached Earth Defense Command. Una expected panic, evacuation orders, perhaps a desperate call for volunteers to mount some hopeless last stand. Instead, she received a response that made her sit in stunned silence for a full minute. "Understood," the message read. "Thank you for your service, Miss Park, and please go somewhere safe immediately. Do not return to Earth until you receive the all-clear signal." That was all. No fear, no requests for more information, no desperate pleas for help from alien allies who did not exist. Just Calm acknowledgement and a polite suggestion to find shelter. Yuna stared at the message, her reflection ghostly in the dark screen, and she wondered what her home world knew that the rest of the galaxy did not. 800 light years away, deep beneath the mountains of Korea, General Minho Kang read the same warning and allowed himself a small, tired smile. So they finally decided, he said to the officers assembled around his command table. How many ships? 9,700, sir. The number should have been terrifying. And perhaps it would have been terrifying 800 years ago. When humanity first learned it was not alone in the universe, but that was before the discoveries, before the preparations, before 8 centuries of silent work conducted in absolute secrecy. Wake the grid, General Kang ordered. Full activation, all sectors, and someone please make tea. It seems we have guests coming. His officers moved to their stations without hurry, their movements practiced and precise, and throughout the planet, systems that had slumbered for generations began to stir in the great chamber of the Galaxy Council. Council of Reth celebrated his victory with his eyes, already planning how to divide Earth's resources among the voting members. He did not know that his fleet would never return. He did not know that humanity had been waiting for this moment longer than his entire species had possessed spaceflight, and he certainly did not know that in 9 days he would receive a message that would change everything the Council believed about the small blue world at the edge of nowhere. But that knowledge would come soon enough. For now, the fleet prepared to launch, and Earth prepared to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The Armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. 9,700 warships spreading across the darkness in perfect formation, their weapons charged, and their crews eager for the glory of Conquest Fleet. Commander Torvax stood at the center of his flagship's bridge, his massive frame casting shadows across the tactical displays, and he watched Earth grow larger in the viewscreen with what he told himself was confidence. Scan results coming in now, Commander, his tactical officer reported, and there was confusion in the young soldier's voice. What do you see? Torvax demanded. Nothing, sir. Nothing? No orbital defense platforms, no warships, no weapon satellites, nothing at all. The planet appears completely undefended. A ripple of laughter spread through the bridge crew, and Torvax felt some of his tension ease. The humans were even more primitive than intelligence had suggested. Their famous stubbornness apparently nothing more than ignorant bravado. They probably do not even know we are here, his second officer suggested with amusement. Perhaps they are still arguing in their parliament about how to respond. More laughter filled the bridge, and Torvax allowed himself a cruel smile. Deep scans, he ordered. Show me their population centers. The holographic display shifted to show Earth's surface, and the data that scrolled alongside made Torvax pause. 11 billion humans lived on that small world, going about their daily lives as if the largest invasion fleet in history was not hovering above them. He could see their cities glowing with lights, their vehicles moving along roads, their aircraft crossing between continents. None of them were fleeing. None of them were panicking. They simply continued existing, as if this day was no different from any other. Commander, his sensor officer said slowly, I am detecting no emergency broadcasts, no military mobilization, no evacuation orders of any kind. It is like they do not care that we are here. Something cold began to form in Torvax's stomach, a feeling he had not experienced since his first battle many years ago. They are fools, he said. Pushing the feeling aside, all ships moved to bombardment positions. We will give them something to care about. The fleet shifted forward, thousands of vessels arranging themselves in the precise geometric patterns required for planetary subjugation, and Torvax watched his displays with growing anticipation. In minutes, Earth's major cities would burn, its defenses would crumble, and its people would learn the price of defying the Galaxy Council. All ships report ready. Commander, then fire. The order should have brought destruction beyond imagination. 9,000 vessels opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons and particle beams and nuclear missiles, all streaking toward the blue planet below, and then something impossible happened. The weapons stopped, not exploded, not deflected, not intercepted. They simply stopped moving, frozen in space like insects trapped in amber, their deadly energy suspended in perfect stillness. What is happening? Torvax roared, but his tactical displays were already going mad with warnings. Ship after ship reported system failures. Their engines dying, their weapons going cold, their navigation computers filling with meaningless static. Commander, we are losing power across all systems. Communications are down. Life support is failing. Torvax grabbed his command console as the bridge lights flickered and died, leaving only the pale emergency lighting to illuminate the growing terror on his crew's faces. Then, a voice spoke through every speaker on every ship in the fleet. Calm and clear, and speaking perfect galactic standard. This is Earth Defense Grid to all invading vessels. You have entered sovereign human space with hostile intent, and you have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. This is your only warning. Torvax stared at the silent speakers, his four hands clenching into fists. We do not surrender, he snarled, though he knew no one outside his dying ship could hear him. The Dominion does not bow to primitives. The countdown continued, numbers appearing on every screen that still functioned. And Torvax watched them decrease with growing horror. 20 seconds, 10 seconds. A voice spoke once more. Humanity, note your choice. And then everything ended. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no dramatic destruction. One moment, the crews of 9,700 warships were alive and conscious. And the next moment they simply were not. They slumped at their stations, collapsed in corridors, fell where they stood, their eyes closing in sudden sleep that nothing could break. The ships themselves became tombs of metal and silence, drifting in the darkness with no living hand to guide them on Earth's surface. General Kang watched the operation conclude with the same tired expression he had worn since the fleet first appeared. Confirmed neutralization of all hostile vessels, his aide reported. 0 casualties on both sides. As planned. Good. Kang said simply. Begin recovery operations. I want every crew member in medical stasis within 6 hours. Sir, do you want us to destroy the ships? Kang shook his head slowly. No. We are not them, and we will prove that in everything we do. Those ships will be evidence, and those crews will be witnesses. And when the Council finally understands what happened here, they will know exactly what kind of species they tried to conquer. Far above, in the cold silence of space, 9,700 warships hung motionless. Against the stars, not one of them would ever fire a weapon. Again, not one of them would ever return home under its own power, and not one of the millions of soldiers aboard them had died. They simply slept, dreaming whatever dreams their species dreamed, while humanity began the slow work of collecting them like fallen leaves after a storm. The Galaxy Council had sent its greatest fleet to teach Earth a lesson. Instead, Earth had given them a gift they did not yet understand. Their people were alive and at choice. More than any weapon or technology, would change everything that came next. 3 weeks passed, and the Galaxy Council heard nothing. No victory reports came from Commander Torvax. No images of Earth burning, no requests for additional troops to manage the conquered population. There was only silence, vast and terrible, spreading from the Sol system like a diseased council of Vreth paced his private chambers, his forearms clasped behind his back, his mind churning with possibilities that grew darker by the hour. Send another scout ship. He ordered for the 5th time, "Counselor." "We have already sent 12, his aide reminded him nervously. "None have returned. None have even transmitted a single message after entering human space. Then send 20 more." But even as he spoke, Reth knew that more ships would not bring answers. Something had happened at Earth. Something that defied everything the Council understood about warfare and power. And the silence itself was becoming a message that the entire galaxy was beginning to hear in Station Meridian. Una Park sat in a small rented room, watching news feeds from a dozen different species. And she saw the same confusion and fear spreading across every channel. The humans on the station had become targets of suspicion and hostility, forced to move in groups or risk violence from frightened aliens who wanted someone to blame for their missing fleet. But Una also noticed something else. Something that the news programs did not report: the refugee species. The ones who had fled Council expansion to find shelter on Earth were not afraid at all. They walked through the station with quiet confidence. And when other species demanded to know what had happened to the Armada, they simply smiled and said nothing. "You know something," a Velshi journalist said to Una one evening, cornering her in a market corridor. "Your government has been silent for weeks, but you refugees act like you have already won. Tell me what happened." Una hesitated, because the truth was that she did not know Earth's government had told her to wait, to stay safe, to trust that everything would be explained when the time was right. But the journalist's question sparked a memory, a history lesson from her university years that had seemed like fantasy at the time. "Have you ever wondered," Una said slowly, "why humans never tried to build an empire like the Council did?" "Because you are too primitive," the journalist answered automatically. "No," Una said, "because we learned from watching you." The journalist's silver face shifted with confusion. And Una continued, 800 years ago, when we first discovered that the galaxy was full of spacefaring species, we were terrified. We saw the Council absorbing civilization after civilization, and we knew that eventually they would come for us. "So you hid," the journalist suggested. "We prepared," Una corrected. "For 8 centuries, we prepared, and we made a decision that shaped everything we have done since then. We decided that when the Council finally attacked, we would not become like them in order to defeat them. Far away, on Earth itself." Captain Jung-Ho Kwon walked through a medical facility that stretched for kilometers beneath the Korean mountains. Row after row of sleeping aliens filled the vast chambers, each one connected to machines that monitored their health and kept them in peaceful stasis. These were the soldiers of the invasion fleet, the millions of warriors who had come to conquer Earth and now lay helpless in the care of their intended victims. "They are all stable," a doctor reported to Kwon. "No casualties, no injuries, no trauma. They simply sleep, and they will continue sleeping until we choose to wake them." "And their ships?" Kwon asked. "Disabled permanently. The technology that powered them has been neutralized at the molecular level. Even if they had crews to fly them, those vessels will never move again." Kwon nodded slowly, remembering the old debates that had raged through Earth's government centuries ago. Some had argued for building weapons that could destroy the Council fleet entirely, turning their ships to dust and sending a message of absolute destruction that would terrify the galaxy into leaving Earth alone. But others had argued for something different, something harder, something that required more courage than simple violence. They had argued for restraint. "We could have killed them all," Kwon said quietly. "The technology that stopped their weapons could have stopped their hearts just as easily. We could have erased their fleet from existence and made the Council fear us forever. Why did we not?" The doctor asked, though she already knew the answer, because fear is how empires are built. "And we did not survive 8 centuries of preparation to become another empire. We survived to prove that there is another way." The doctor smiled and returned to her patients. checking their vital signs with the same care she would give to human patients in any hospital on Earth. Quan walked alone through the endless rows of sleeping soldiers, and he thought about the message that Earth would soon send to the Council. Their people were alive. Their crews were unharmed. If the Council wanted them back, they would have to come and ask, not with weapons, not with threats. Just ask. It was such a simple thing. Really. And yet Quan knew that for the Galaxy Council, it would be the hardest thing they had ever done, because asking meant admitting that they were not all-powerful. Asking meant acknowledging that Earth had the right to say no, and asking meant accepting that somewhere in the galaxy there existed a species that could have destroyed them completely and chose mercy instead. That choice would haunt the Council more than any weapon ever could. And the silence from Sol System was about to end. The message from Earth arrived on every Council communication channel simultaneously, and its simplicity struck harder than any weapon. Your people are alive. Come collect them, unarmed, alone, and ready to talk. The Council chamber erupted into Chao's breath, screamed for immediate retaliation, demanding that every remaining warship in the collective be sent to Earth, regardless of the consequences. Others argued for caution, pointing out that 9,700 ships had already vanished, and that sending more would likely achieve nothing but expanding the disaster. But Elder Morath of the Velshai sat in silence, reading the message again and again, and feeling something that had been dead in their heart for many years begin to stir hope. I will go, Morath announced, and the chamber fell silent. You will die, Reth spat. They will execute you as a message to the rest of us. Perhaps, Morath agreed. But someone must go, and I am old enough that my death would cost the Council little. Besides, I voted against this invasion, and perhaps the humans remember that the journey to Earth took 11 days. And Morath spent every hour of it preparing for death. They wrote final messages to their descendants, organized their affairs, and meditated on the long life they had lived in service to a council they had always privately believed was corrupt. When their small shuttle crossed into human space, Morath expected weapons fire or capture, or the same mysterious silence that had swallowed the fleet instead. A calm voice spoke through their communication system. Elder Morath, you are expected. Please follow the navigation beacon to the Sol Diplomatic Center. You will not be harmed. The shuttle landed on a platform overlooking a vast city, and Morath stepped out into sunlight that felt strange and warm on their silver skin. A human male waited at the edge of the platform, dressed in simple military uniform, his hands empty of weapons and his face empty of hostility. I am Captain Junho Quan, he said in perfect Velshi. Welcome to Earth, Elder. Please, come with me. I have prepared tea. Morath had expected many things from this encounter, but tea was not among them. They followed Quan through corridors filled with humans who glanced at the alien visitor with curiosity rather than hatred, and they found themselves seated in a small room overlooking a garden of flowering trees. Quan poured tea with careful precision and waited for Morath to drink before speaking. You are wondering why you are still alive, Quan said. The thought had occurred to me. Morath admitted. The same reason your fleet is still alive. We are not you. Morath set down their teacup with trembling hands. What do you mean? Quan stood and gestured toward the door. Let me show you. The journey that followed changed everything Morath had ever believed about humanity. Quan took them deep beneath the mountains, through vast chambers filled with sleeping soldiers from a dozen council species, each one monitored by human doctors and tended by human nurses. 3,400,000 crew members, Quan said quietly. Every single one of them healthy, unharmed, dreaming peacefully until we choose to wake them. Why? Morath asked, and their voice cracked with emotion they had not expected. We came to destroy you. We came to burn your cities and enslave your people. Why would you not destroy us in return? Quan stopped walking and turned to face the elder with eyes that held centuries of accumulated sorrow. "Because we watched," he said. "For 800 years, we watched the Council absorb species after species. And we saw the cycle repeat endlessly. The conquered become the conquerors, the victims become the oppressors. And the violence never ends because everyone believes that strength means the willingness to destroy. That is how power works," Morath said weakly. "No," Quan said. "That is how empires work, and empires always fall. We chose something different. We chose to prove that true strength is the ability to destroy and the choice not to." Morath sank onto a bench, their ancient legs no longer able to support them. And they wept for the first time in 200 years. "We were wrong," they whispered. "The Council, all of us. We were so terribly wrong about everything." Quan sat beside them and waited until the tears stopped. "Your people can go home," he said gently. "Every soldier, every ship, everything can be returned. But the Council must agree to our terms first." "What terms?" "No more forced integration. Refugee species must be allowed to leave Council space freely. And Earth will be recognized as a sovereign world that answers to no external authority." Morath laughed bitterly. "Vreth will never agree. He would rather let 3 million soldiers rot than show weakness. Then Vreth must be convinced. Or removed." The elder looked at the human captain with new understanding. "You could have conquered us," Morath said slowly. "The technology that stopped our fleet could reach anywhere in the galaxy. Could it not?" Quan did not answer, but his silence was answer enough. "You could have made the Council kneel," Morath continued. "You could have done to us what we planned to do to you." "Yes," Quan said simply. "We could have, but you chose not to. We chose to offer something better. Whether you accept it is up to you." Morath returned to the Council 5 days later, and they stood before the 9 seats with a clarity of purpose they had not felt in centuries. They described what they had seen, what they had learned, what humanity had offered, and when they finished. Vreth called for a vote, not on accepting Earth's terms on building a new fleet. 40,000 ships from every species in the collective. To finally crush the human world once and for all. The vote was 5-4 in favor of war. And Morath knew that humanity's greatest lesson was yet to come. The Second Armada made the first look small. 40,000 warships gathered at the edge of Sol System, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor and their weapons upgraded with every advancement the Council could produce in the months since the first invasion failed. Vreth himself commanded the fleet from a fortress-class dreadnought, his 4 eyes burning with hatred as he watched Earth's distant sun glowing against the darkness. "They caught us off guard once," he broadcast to his commanders. "They will not catch us again. All ships, full advance. We will see how their precious mercy holds up against real numbers." Far away on Station Meridian, Una Park stood before a communication array and spoke her final plea to the galaxy. "This is a message to all species within range of this broadcast. Please, I beg you, do not do this. Humanity does not want war, but they will not allow themselves to be conquered. And whatever happens next will change everything you understand about power." Her words spread across 1,000 worlds, heard by billions of beings who had spent their lives believing that military might was the only force that mattered most. Of them ignored her, some of them wondered, a few of them began to understand. The Armada crossed into human space, and for several minutes nothing happened. Vreth allowed himself a moment of triumph, believing that Earth's defenses had been a one-time trick that could not be repeated. Against such overwhelming force, then the boundary expanded, did not attack the fleet. It simply grew, sweeping outward from Earth like a wave of invisible change, passing through the Armada and continuing beyond, spreading faster than any ship could fly within hours. It reached the nearest Council systems within days. It covered the entire galaxy and everywhere it touched. Weapons stopped working, not just the ships it saw, but every military vessel in existence. Warships at distant stations found their weapons cold and their engines dead. Planetary defense platforms went silent. Ground-based armies discovered that their guns would not fire and their vehicles would not move. 40,000 years of galactic military development ended in a single afternoon on his flagship. Vreth screamed orders that no one could obey, his crew helpless as their instruments showed the impossible scale of what humanity had done, and then a new message played through every speaker on every ship and every station and every world in the galaxy. This is Earth to the Galaxy Council and all member species. We have removed your ability to harm each other. Your civilian ships still function. Your medical systems still work. Your food production and transportation and communication remain untouched. Only your weapons are gone, and they will never return. The message paused, and when it continued, the voice was softer, almost gentle. We did not want this. We offered peace, and you chose war. We offered mercy, and you demanded violence. So now we offer something else, a galaxy where no species can conquer another, where disputes must be resolved with words instead of weapons, where the strong can no longer prey upon the weak. This is not a punishment. This is a gift. What you do with it will define what you become. The silence that followed lasted for years. The council collapsed, its authority meaningless without the military force to back it up. And the species that had ruled through fear found themselves equals with those they had once oppressed. Chaos threatened to consume everything. But something unexpected emerged from the wreckage. The refugee species that Earth had sheltered for centuries came forward, offering their experience and their knowledge and their hope. They had rebuilt their cultures under human protection, and now they helped other species learn what they had learned. That civilization did not require conquest. That cooperation could achieve what domination never could. Unipark worked through those difficult years, mediating disputes and translating agreements and slowly building the framework for something new. She was 47 years old when the Federation was finally established. A gathering of 200 species that had chosen to live together in peace. And she was 93, her hair white and her hands weathered with age. When she stood before the first Federation Congress as humanity's ambassador, "You asked me once what humanity's secret was," she said to the assembled delegates, her voice still strong despite her years. "How we could defeat the greatest military force in galactic history without firing a single shot." The chamber fell silent. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds waiting for her answer. The truth is, there was no secret. We were simply terrified. Confused murmurs rippled through the delegates. 800 years ago, we looked at the galaxy and we saw a nightmare. Species conquering species, cultures being erased, violence without end. And we knew that if we fought you the same way, we would become you. And everything that made us human would be lost. Una smiled. And in that smile was all the warmth and sorrow and hope of her long, remarkable life. So we chose differently. We chose to believe that there was another way, even when we had no proof it would work. We chose to spend centuries preparing not for war but for peace. And when the moment came, we chose mercy, even though destruction would have been easier. She looked out at the sea of alien faces. So many species that had once been enemies now sitting together as equals. That was our secret. We were afraid, so we became brave. We were weak, so we became wise. We were alone, so we learned to build bridges instead of walls. And now you are not alone either. The applause that followed shook the chamber walls. And Unipark allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction outside the great windows. Ships from dozens of species moved peacefully through the stars. Traders and explorers and families beginning Nu lives in a galaxy that no longer ran on Fear-Earth, hung among them like a blue jewel. The small world that had changed everything, and Yuna knew, as she watched the stars, that this was only the beginning.